Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and these are the headlines that we're tracking this evening. President Pranab Mukherjee addresses the nation on the eve of the 67th Republic Day, says nation should guard itself against forces of violence, intolerance and unreason. India and France sign intergovernmental agreement on the sale of 36 French fighter jets. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the financial details yet to be worked out. Arunachal Pradesh Assembly in limbo. The Congress opposes the central government's decision to recommend President's rule in the state. Protests escalate in the Hyderabad Central University. Students from other varsities also go on hunger strike. Vice Chancellor goes on leave. And cold snap from the US to Asia throws life out of gear. Millions of people grapple with power cuts and transport hurdles. Well, our top story this evening, addressing the nation on the eve of the 67th Republic Day, President Pranab Mukherjee today said the nation should guard itself against forces of violence, intolerance and unreason. He said reverence for the past is one of the essential ingredients of nationalism. Also, in an apparent message against the backdrop of the stalled GST bill, the President said it was the duty of the lawmakers and the government to ensure that for the enactment of progressive legislations, a spirit of accommodation and consensus building should be the preferred mode of decision-making.
Ensure to all citizens justice, equality, and gender and economic equity. When grim instances of violence hit at these established values, which are at the core of our nationhood, it is time to take note. We must guard ourselves against the forces of violence, intolerance, and unreason.
Now to a focus story for this evening. In a landmark accord, India and France today signed an intergovernmental agreement on the purchase of 36 Rafale fighter jets. Issuing a joint statement after the talks, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and French President Francois Hollande also underscored their commitment to combat terrorism. Hollande is in India on a 3-day visit. He'll be the chief guest at the Republic Day parade on Tuesday.
रक्षा सहयोग के संदर्भ में
If you were to speak of the
36 राफेल लड़ाकू विमानों की खरीद को लेकर यह खुशी की बात है
we are very
कि
pleased
दोनों
that
पक्षों के
in
बीच
the purchase of 36 Rafale aircraft, apart from some financial issues, there has been an intergovernmental agreement on other issues.
A decisive accord between India and France. Both countries signed an intergovernmental agreement on the 60,000 crore Rafale jet deal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi assured that financial issues will be sorted out soon. French firms will also invest $10 billion in India over the next 5 years, taking forward Modi's pet scheme Make in India. Majority of this investment will be in the industrial sector.
Il avait affirmé son souhait de faire l'acquisition de 36 avions Rafale. Nous avons travaillé depuis. Je rappelle que ces avions sont ceux-là même qui, aujourd'hui, luttent contre Daesh en Syrie et en Irak et montrent leur efficacité.
Terrorism became a hot topic of discussion between Modi and Hollande, with both referring to a common challenge from Paris to Pathankot. Hollande expressed his commitment to strengthen cooperation between Paris and New Delhi against militant attacks.
Et ces provocations odieuses amplifient encore la résolution qui est la nôtre, qui est la mienne, pour protéger les Français. Frapper encore cette organisation qui nous menace et qui tue nos enfants. C'est la raison pour laquelle
पेरिस, पठानकोट तथा विश्व के अन्य शहरों पर हुए आतंकवादी हमले एक ऐसी ही चुनौती का एक भीषण स्वरूप है। इससे लड़ने के लिए मानवता में विश्वास रखने वाले सभी देशों और शक्तियों को एकत्रित होना नितांत आवश्यक है।
Among other agreements, France will partner India's next mission to Mars. India is likely to undertake Mangalyaan 2 in 2021. Both countries also extended cooperation to make a thermal imaging satellite for studying climate change. Indo-French cooperation is also envisaged in India's forthcoming OceanSat satellite. Early on Sunday, both France and India signed 16 agreements in Chandigarh. On Monday, Hollande was accorded a ceremonial welcome at the presidential palace, where President Pranab Mukherjee and Modi welcomed him. Later, Hollande paid rich tributes to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajya, where he also planted a sapling. In other meetings, the French president interacted with External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. Striking a chord of friendship, Modi said French military troops will march with Indian troops at the Republic Day parade on Tuesday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, to help us understand this evolving relationship between India and France, we're joined by Suhasini Haider, diplomatic editor at The Hindu. Suhasini, the Rafale deal was the most talked about thing when Prime Minister Modi went to Paris, and now when the French president is here, we've inked sort of that deal. But as far as the induction of the Rafale jets into the Indian Air Force goes, it's still some time now, isn't it?
Well, certainly, Ishan, and while the intergovernmental agreement, or the MOU as they call it, does mark a step forward in the agreements, we have to remember that there hasn't really been much of a hitch when it came to the technical agreements, which is what they have come to. The problem has been for the last few weeks on the subject of pricing and on the financial arrangements. And it's very clear that even today there isn't that kind of agreement on it, although we heard from President Hollande saying he didn't think it would be too long before that would be signed. So I do think on the Rafale, it is not deal done yet. It is essentially just an MOU at the moment and could take its own time unless both sides can come to an agreement on the price.
All right. The other big standout for me was the energy sector. And given that this visit is happening on the recently concluded, I mean, not that recently, but the climate summit in Paris, where India played a major role in sort of promoting awareness and creating that entire solar alliance, and a lot about green initiatives and other sources of energy, non-renewable sources of energy. So India and France are forging a partnership in that front?
That's right. And look at all the various parts of that, Ishan, because to begin with, there is the renewable energy. Already they have signed many MOUs when Prime Minister Modi had gone to Paris. We heard President Hollande making really that public statement for the first time, perhaps, where France, he said, owes it to India and to Prime Minister Modi that the climate change agreement went through, despite the fact that India had made lots and lots of conditions, had hoped for much more on climate justice. But the fact that India came together with the rest of the world to push the deal through, that we were hearing for the first time. Also, the Solar Alliance, the headquarters of that Global Solar Alliance that was inaugurated. And then finally, the nuclear agreement. Essentially, there is an old agreement to build 6 nuclear power reactors in Jetapur. But what we saw today was a revision of those agreements, a decision by both governments to fast-track the negotiations that have been hanging fire for some time. So an expectation that in 2017, that at least the first 2 of those reactors will come to fruition. So energy was certainly a very important part of it. Also look in infrastructure, locomotives, 800 locomotives to be built in Madhepura in Bihar in a French-India joint venture. That's certainly a very important deal. But I think far and away the big takeaway has been the agreement on counter-terrorism and that separate joint statement that we saw, which was a very, very powerful statement.
Yes, indeed. And Prime Minister Modi saying from Pathankot to Paris. So both the countries have suffered at the hands of terror quite recently. In that sense, this is just a natural partnership, isn't it?
Certainly, but it's not just about the kinds of terror, because obviously the kind of terror both sides face is a little different. But it is in the way that they want to cooperate when it comes to fighting terror, on intelligence sharing, on judicial processes, on investigation techniques. The fact that the two sides have now instituted this as part of an annual strategic dialogue and the joint working group on counter-terrorism, these are institutionalized mechanisms for cooperation. Also, very significantly, strong words for Pakistan in that joint statement, saying that Pakistan, calling on Pakistan to act against groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Haqqani Network, Al-Qaeda. Also saying that India is a stabilizing force in Afghanistan, and saying that Afghanistan suffers from cross-border terror that clearly emanates from Pakistan. These are all very strong statements that show that India and France are on the same page when it comes to fighting terror. It's not just about the fact that they are victims of terror or that they face terror, but that they see fighting terror as a common ground.
All right, so India and France really moving forward there. So Hasniyata, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand this new relationship that's being forged. Moving on now, the Supreme Court will hear the Congress party's plea against recommendation of President's rule in Arunachal Pradesh on the 27th of January. The parties alleged that the centre's move is illegal. The main opposition party also met the president seeking his intervention. The government, meanwhile, refuted the allegations of political motivation, saying its decision is in line with constitutional provisions.
ये हमने गुजारिश की है राष्ट्रपति जी से और मेमोरेंडम एक पेश किया है कि इन सारी बातों को सामने रखते हुए राष्ट्रपति जी इस पे गौर करें और हम समझते हैं कि ये जो काम किया है राज्यपाल ने ये इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि इसके पीछे एक साजिश थी। गवर्नर के वकील ने कहा कि कोई ऐसा प्रेसिपिटेट एक्शन नहीं लिया जाएगा जब तक ये बहस जारी रहेगी। उसके बावजूद ये रिकमेंडेशन राज्यपाल ने की। हम समझते हैं कि ये एक कोर्ट को भी गुमराह करने वाली बात है। ये सारी बातें हम कोर्ट के सामने रखेंगे और हमें उम्मीद है कि कोर्ट इंसाफ करेगी।
A day after Modi government's recommendation to impose president's rule in Arunachal Pradesh, the Congress party, which is heading the government in the state, has come down heavily on the union government.
Our strategy will go to the court. The action that has been taken by union cabinet recommending president's rule in the state, which was not consulted by consulted with the state government, and there was no breach of any law and order problem in the state. Only the reports submitted by the governor should be not taken as considered, but they should have been consulted the state government also.
The government, however, denied any political motive behind the decision, saying it has been done as per provisions of the constitution.
No, as all of you would appreciate that there is a constitutional crisis in Arunachal Pradesh. There was a government which fell into minority, and then there was some intervention from the court side, and during this logjam 6 months have expired, and therefore a call has to be taken accordingly.
The Congress party has also accused the centre of using the office of governor to achieve its political motives in non-BJP ruled states. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
Now, students across universities around the world, including in Boston, San Francisco in Pennsylvania in the United States and Johannesburg in South Africa, reportedly held condolence meetings for Dalit research scholar Rohit Vemula today. Many also held protests in support of the Hyderabad Central University students' demand for the dismissal of the Hyderabad Central University Vice-Chancellor Appa Rao.
Support increasing at the Hyderabad Central University for students protesting against the alleged suicide of Dalit research scholar Rohit Vemula. Students and the SC/ST faculty and officer forums objected to the choice of Vipin Srivastava, the senior-most professor, to perform the duties of the Vice-Chancellor. They alleged that he headed the Executive Council subcommittee that was responsible for the death of Rohit.
In solidarity with the SC/ST Teachers Forum, Dr. Anupama and Dr. Soumya Dechamma, both non-Dalit faculty members, have resigned from their administrative positions. Just now, they have extended their solidarity.
The only way we can move forward is through talks. Okay, so and for that, I'm reaching out to my colleagues, faculty colleagues, to help us, talk with the students.
Meanwhile, Rohit Vemula's mother, who was demanding an inquiry into his death, was hospitalized after she complained of chest pain.
Last evening around 8 o'clock, Rohit's mother, who was sitting in the protest site, she complained of chest pain, and then she was brought to our health center because it is the closest one. So our duty doctor and our duty medical team had done an ECG and other required investigations, and they found there were some ECG changes. She is a known case of hypertension and diabetes. So whatever possible at our level we had done.
On Monday, students from other universities and social groups converged at the university campus, responding to the Chalo HCU call by the Joint Action Committee. News agencies reported that security was increased with a large number of police personnel deployed as a precautionary measure. The students are demanding the dismissal of Vice-Chancellor P. Appa Rao, who proceeded on leave on Sunday. They also want what they called a Rohit Act to prevent suicides of SC, ST, OBC and minority students in universities. Protests were also held in Delhi against the HRD minister, who appealed for calm.
I have also appealed to everybody to ensure that there is calm and peace with regards to the same issue. The press release of MHRD is extremely clear on the fact that every university, though is autonomous, to ensure that administration takes place. We are also also starting in sensitization, whole chain of efforts on our behalf, so that universities and organizations who are aware that they have to fulfill a constitutional responsibility towards their students ensure that absolutely no activity is done to harm the interest of students at large.
On Monday, B.R. Ambedkar's grandson Prakash Ambedkar also visited the campus. The agitation has already received strong support from parties other than the BJP and several top leaders, including Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, who visited the campus last week. A fresh batch of 7 students also joined the indefinite fast that is continuing on the campus for the second day. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Time now to take a look at what else is making news around the country and nationwide. The BJP demanded an apology from SP Supremo Mulayam Singh Yadav for ordering fire on volunteers in Ayodhya in 1990, in which 16 people were killed. The ASP chief on Sunday said he felt sad for giving the order but claimed it was done to save the religious place. The BJP said merely feeling sad will not console the families of those who died. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar on Sunday demanded categorization of extremely backward class people across the country for reservations. He also demanded the Bharat Ratna for former Bihar Chief Minister and socialist leader Kapuri Thakur. Bihar is one of the few states that has made a separate category of EBCs by bifurcating it into backward class and extremely backward class. 2 days after Prime Minister Narendra Modi declassified 100 files on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, his grandnephew Chandra Kumar Bose joined the BJP today. BJP President Amit Shah welcomed him into the party at a public meeting in Kolkata. Chandra Kumar Bose is a former Tata Steel employee. He launched his own human resources consultancy in the year 2000. The BJP hopes his entry will help its campaign in the upcoming assembly elections in West Bengal. 12 terror suspects arrested for their alleged links with the terror group ISIS were sent to police custody till the 5th of February by a special NIA court today. The accused were produced amid tight security during an in-camera proceeding. The accused were allegedly regularly in touch with active members of IS in Syria through the internet. Noted Malayalam film actress Kalpana Ranjani died in Hyderabad today following a heart attack. She was 51. She was in Hyderabad for the shooting of a Telugu film. She was brought dead at Apollo Hospital from her hotel room, where she was found unconscious early this morning. Kalpana has acted in over 300 odd films in South Indian languages. She also won the Best Supporting Actress award for her performance in a Malayalam film in 2012. Well, time for us to take a short break. Lots more on the other side. Do stay tuned.
The present government is being projected as a reflexive anti-Dalit government.
I think that kind of a criticism is inspired by those who are not comfortable with the present government.
The politics in Jammu and Kashmir. Why do we see an intriguing political silence at the moment, both on the part of BJP as well as PDP?
There is an English proverb that we'll cross the bridge when we reach it. Let the party first choose its leader. The PDP is yet to choose.
Watch to the point with Minister of State for Prime Minister's Office Dr. Jitendra Singh only on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Some sports now, and Andy Murray, Victoria Azarenka, Angelique Kerber and Johanna Konta continued their impressive run at the Australian Open. The highlight of the day, however, was the stunning ouster of fourth seed and former champion Stan Wawrinka by young sensation Milos Raonic.
2 nights after his father-in-law was rushed to the hospital from a nearby court while British #1 Andy Murray was playing at the Australian Open, the 4-time finalist put personal distractions aside for long enough to beat Bernard Tomic and advance to the quarterfinals. An agitated Murray had some trouble before winning 6-4, 6-4, 7-6 in a scrappy match against the last Australian in the draw. The world #2 will now play 8th seed David Ferrer for a place in the semis. In a major upset in the men's draw today, teen sensation Milos Raonic fended off a spirited comeback from 4th seed Stanislas Wawrinka to send the 2014 champion tumbling out of the Australian Open. Wawrinka lost the 4th round match 6-4, 6-3, 5-7, 4-6, 6-3.
You know, I was doing well up there. Especially some points I was more efficient than others. Maybe at one point in the 3rd and 4th set I was coming in too much. So it was a little bit predictable, but I was volleying the first volley really well. I was finishing the points. I was putting pressure on him, and I was giving him a situation maybe that he wasn't too comfortable in.
In the women's singles, Johanna Konta became the first British woman to reach a Grand Slam quarter-final in 32 years, beating Ekaterina Makarova. Konta, making her debut in the main draw, fought back to beat the 21st seed 4-6, 6-4, 8-6 in the 4th round. Also advancing into the quarters was 7th seed Angelique Kerber, who thumped compatriot Annika Beck 6-4, 6-0 to win an all-German clash and reach the Australian Open quarterfinals for the first time. She will play Victoria Azarenka in the last 8. The number 14 seed and 2-time Australian Open champion Azarenka also advanced to the quarters with a 6-2, 6-4 routine win over Barbara Strykova.
At least she's a very feisty player and has a lot of different varieties. So for me, it was important to really stay patient, but at the same time being aggressive and execute my game and go for my shots. And no matter what happens, try to stick to the plan. And I think that was I did that really well today, and I'm happy to be able to have that focus from the first point to the last.
Women's doubles top seeds Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis stayed on course for their maiden Australian Open crown together when they defeated Svetlana Kuznetsova and Roberta Vinci in the 3rd round of the women's doubles. The Indo-Swiss pair raced to a 6-1, 6-3 victory over the unseeded Russian-Italian combo in 1 hour and 20 minutes to advance to the quarterfinals. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, some international news. And former Bangladeshi Prime Minister and opposition leader Khaleda Zia was booked on a sedition charge on Monday. Khaleda Zia was booked for her alleged slanderous comments concerning martyrs of the 1971 liberation war against Pakistan. The case was filed against her at the Chief Metropolitan Magistrates Court in Dhaka. The court summoned her to appear in person by the 3rd of March after a brief hearing. On December 21st last year, Zia had expressed doubts about the casualty figures of the 1971 liberation war. Her party BNP is a crucial ally of the fundamentalist Jamaat-e-Islami that was opposed to Bangladesh's independence from Pakistan. The Asian Peninsula is also experiencing an unusual cool wave weather pattern this year. From India to China to Taiwan, South Korea and Japan, the entire region is reeling under a severe cool wave. Take a look at our detailed report.
The Asian Peninsula is witnessing an unusual cold weather pattern. India, China, Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan and Japan all are under the grip of a severe cold wave. North India is experiencing bone-chilling cold along with icy winds and heavy fog. Normal life is throwing out of gear and people remaining indoors. Fresh snowfall in hills pulled down mercury several notches in plains as well.
इस समय ठंडा तो बहुत ज़्यादा दिख रही है और ठंडा बहुत ज़्यादा है, हाथ पैर गल रहे हैं और अभी कुछ सुबह सुबह कोहरा भी बहुत ज़्यादा था।
काम करने में हाथ फट जाते हैं और काफ़ी ठंड से हाथ भी सिकुड़ जाते हैं। हाँ, गर्म कपड़े टोपी वगैरह तो पहने रखें फिर भी ठंड लगता है।
A rare cold spell proved deadly for island nation Taiwan. Mostly the elders were killed as temperatures slipped below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. The unusual weather dragged down temperatures to fell record lows in places that are usually accustomed to warmer conditions. Scenes of snow, sleet and icy winds were also seen in Japan. Fukuoka city saw temperatures as low as -4 degrees Celsius. At least 5 people died and over 100 were injured in snow-related accidents. Heavy snowfall warnings were also issued for the first time since 1983. Another island, Amami Oshima, located between Kyushu and Okinawa, received snow for the first time in 115 years. Ierguna in Inner Mongolia, the temperature hit a record low of -46.8 degrees Celsius.
2時ぐらいの便で出発する予定だったんですけど、もうなんかちょっといつ電車止まるかわからないので、もう帰ろうかなとそんな感じで。
South Korea was hit by the strongest cold wave conditions in over a decade, with Seoul witnessing temperatures of -14 degrees Celsius. 90,000 people were stranded in Jeju Island that was cut off by heavy snow.
오늘 너무 춥네요. 어제보다 기온이 많이 내려간 것 같아요. 내일부터는 빨리 풀렸으면 좋겠어요.
China issued an orange alert in many parts. The worst cold snap in years led to at least 4 deaths across central and southern China. Dozens of highways were shut, flights delayed or cancelled, and ferry services suspended as the extreme cold wave threw lives of mainlanders out of gear. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Millions of people across the eastern United States are facing huge challenges with the start of the working week after the massive snowstorm that virtually paralyzed many cities. Public transport at many cities is shut and airports remain severely disrupted. Government buildings in Washington and many schools remain closed. In fact, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio urged people to leave their cars covered with snow all week, but he also tweeted that the city was now bouncing back. Near record snowfall swept from capital to New York, with at least 28 deaths reported since Friday. Well, but as we go, Snowzilla might have dampened the spirits of ordinary Americans, but Tian Tian, the panda, is having a whale of a time. He's among the few who embraced the blizzard in the United States. Videos of the inmate of the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, D.C. went viral over this weekend. We leave you with this. Thanks so much for watching.